Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Hear What I'm Saying. I'm your host, Kinetra, and today we have a fantastic guest joining us, a white curl specialist with a unique perspective on the intersection of hair, culture, and diversity. In this episode, we're embarking on a journey into the heart of a crucial conversation about the link between hair texture and systemic racism. Our guest brings a wealth of experience and passion to this discussion. We'll be exploring the historical context and systemic issues related to hair texture and how it intertwines with the broader narrative of racism and discrimination. It's a conversation that's not just informative, but deeply thought-provoking. Whether you're a seasoned stylist, a hair care enthusiast, or simply curious about the impact of hair on our culture, get ready for a captivating dialogue. So without further ado, let's dive into Curl Conversations, exploring the link between hair texture and racism. Welcome to the Hear What I'm Saying podcast. I'm your host, Kinetra Stewart. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Melissa. Melissa, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. This is the first remote podcast on such an amazing topic. So I'm beyond excited. I'm just ready to get started and dive in.
I'm so excited. I really appreciate you inviting me to talk about this.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you as well for joining us and sharing. This is a very sensitive topic that needs a lot of light shedded on it, whether it's people out here that are continuing to ignore the situation or they don't know, So I think it's a great topic to just open some minds into learning more about certain situations, when it comes to texturism and racism in the beauty industry, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're a curl specialist, Melissa. Tell us, how long have you been? Did you always start off as a curl specialist, or you just knew that one day you woke up, you're like, I just want to do hair? Walk us through your journey. Tell us about your story.
Oh gosh, I have been doing hair for 23 years now. I have not always been a curl specialist. I'd say probably the last maybe, I don't know, 5 to 7 years is when I really started focusing in on curly texture. But the journey for me into that has been very long. It started really, really early on for me, just an interest in texture in general and understanding the connections, I think, between the relationships with your clients and their texture. And, I don't know, the thing I love most about hair is people and understanding people and being there for people. And, it's more about the experience than the technical side for me.
Yes. I feel the same too when it comes to curly hair. I do feel as though it is one of the most challenging. Uh, for me, and not speaking from as a professional, but the clients, they've had so many different experiences. Seems to me is it's more bad than good. And so,
Yeah.
to finally create that definition and that, that shape that they've always wanted is just like, it's so rewarding.
Yeah. I got my license in Florida, actually. I lived in Florida for about 15 years. And the first 8 years of my career I spent in Florida, in rural Florida, North Florida.
I didn't know it was a
Just
thing.
want to clarify that.
Oh, it's the thing, like real Florida.
Yeah.
So okay, I don't know much about Florida. So what's the difference between real Florida and then there's a fake Florida?
Well, there's like South Florida is full of kind of northerners. So it's not, it's not Miami, it's not Fort Lauderdale, Orlando. Like North Florida is compared to like Georgia, Alabama, it's deep south.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just a very different culture, different environment. But I went to cosmetology school there, and I think all the way from my first couple of days in cosmetology school, I realized right away that sort of when we started working on clients in the salon, there was just this automatic separation that was happening of, you've got white stylists, you've got black stylists, and like we'd have clients come in and get their hair done, and the black clients would get put with the black stylists and the white clients vice versa. And I immediately felt this kind of draw to like, I want to know how to work on lots of texture. I don't want to just know how to do my hair, you
Yes.
know? And the only way that I could do that was I went to school at the nursing home I worked at during the day at the time. And I asked people that work with me, like, would you come in and request me so that I can practice? Anybody who had different hair.
Yeah, I think that's great for you to be so dedicated to learning texture and not being, opposed to styling different textures according to race. That was an intentional thing that you did. It was like, no, I'm gonna
Yeah.
learn this. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Well, because I could see that it was this is going to be something that'll hold me back. Like I'm not going to beauty school so I can learn how to do my own hair. I want to learn how
Right.
to do clients and all different clients. And, I moved to Florida when I was a teenager. And as a New Yorker, I grew up in a city in New York. When I went to Florida, rural Florida, it was a culture shock for me. And I was awoken.
Really?
And I learned very quickly that I was very ignorant about racism in our country, and I was very ignorant about my privilege and the things that I didn't know in my life,
Mm-hmm.
because I think growing up in a city where I knew a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different ethnicities that went to my school, and
Yeah.
growing up in that very diverse environment, I just never thought about it,
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And then
but
you
then
grew up
being in
north.
an environment where it's yeah, but then when you're in like rural Florida, you're in the South, like it's obvious because that racism is out in the open. And, I just realized right away that it was something I didn't want to be a part of, and I didn't want to absorb that.
Good for you.
So I had a lot of experiences down there that were hard
Mm-hmm.
and were eye-opening, but I think that I give a lot of credit to my experience down there in the South, with like opening my eyes a lot and teaching me a lot about what I needed to do to be better.
Yes, absolutely. I love that for you. And it's so funny because I've met some people, like white people from New York, and they come to Louisiana and they're like, I didn't even realize it was this bad. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Oh,
really
I
is.
love Louisiana. I love a
Yeah.
lot of things about the South. I just don't love some of those old ideas.
And that's what they are, old, and they should be outdated ideas, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I
Mm-hmm.
lived in Virginia, I was doing bridal hair. The great thing about doing bridal hair in Virginia was it was only of they only focused on if you could do my hair. Can you do my hair? It was not about, oh, do you do black hair? Do you do white hair? It was none of that.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to Texas and I forgot the name. I think it was called Swoon Events. You know how you can become a vendor and meet different brides and different vendors at these expos. And I remember this white lady. She walked up to me. She was like, "Can you do white hair?" And I was like, and I said, I can do hair, I can do texture. I was like, I don't think hair is associated with race. And you
Mm-hmm.
approach it through texture. And she was just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and she wanted to know more information. And I gave her information. She was like, that makes sense. So it's just sometimes it's just ignorant. You just don't
Yeah,
know.
it is.
You just don't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah, even black women say it too. They'll say like, "Can you do black hair? Can you do white hair?" And it's like it's a texture thing. It's not a race
Yeah.
thing, So it's just
Yeah, but it looks like a race thing early on when you don't understand, because
yeah,
you see a salon doing a certain demographic of people, you see a different salon doing a different demographic of people. You go to
yeah,
cosmetology school, right? And like the only thing they talk about in cosmetology school, as soon as they hit that curly hair section, they start talking about relaxing and doing,
they
hot
sure
press
do.
and like straightening that
They
curly hair.
sure
That's the first
do.
thing that they go to.
They sure do.
And so there's a clear separation there of like,
Hmm.
the only
Yeah,
thing you're learning about a demographic of hair and a viewpoint of style for certain people, which is
yeah,
non-white people, right,
right.
is to straighten
Absolutely.
it.
To
To
straighten
make
it.
it,
That is
yeah.
so true. That's true. It's very, very, very true. you know.
So on a technical level, yeah, we all have curly hair, we all have different textures, we all have different curl
Mhm.
patterns,
Yeah.
you know. It's not about race, but what is about race is, I think, the way that we approach it in the beauty industry and the way that we teach or don't teach each other about it.
Absolutely. Yes,
That's
that's
rooted
true.
in racism.
Yeah, because I didn't learn anything about curly hair in cosmetology school. Like nothing. I don't
No.
recall any not curly haircut and definitely not curly haircuts. Definitely didn't learn anything
Mm-mm.
about curly haircuts. My curly hair education came from home. Like my mom was just great at hair. She just didn't go to hair school, but she was great at hair. So I was comfortable wearing my hair curly or straight, you know. So even listening to my clients that come into my salon today, you know, their stories are very captivating to me because I didn't grow up like a lot of them who moms chose to chemically alter their hair straight because they didn't know what to do with the curly hair, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I just it's just interesting to me, you know, almost as I'm sure it's just as interesting for you when you went to Florida and it's like, well, I didn't know this was really a thing, you know. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I learned from my clients a lot trying to understand, you know, their perspective when it comes to them not being very comfortable wearing or styling and taking care of their curly hair. And it's because, well, as a child, it was relaxed straight. And then
Mm-hmm.
now I want to embrace my curls, but now I can't because well I can, but I'm not sure how to style it and take care of it because they were never nurtured in that way because they were getting relaxers at such a young age, you know.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I've
yeah.
seen that, like, for me, the points in time in my career that I started to learn about this
Mhm.
were scattered. So that's why I say my journey to curly hair was happening for a long time. I just didn't make the choice. I wasn't. I think I wasn't confident enough to make the choice to say I'm going to focus on this thing until
Yeah.
I had really dug my feet into it and learned enough to go there. But I started another demographic of people I met a lot in Florida were Hispanic clients,
Yeah.
and meeting a lot of Cubans, meeting a lot of, it was actually a really big East Indian population near me as well. And I think there's
Uh-huh.
this concept
Mhm.
that all East Indian people have this like long, heavy, straight hair. And I met tons of women
Yeah.
in that community that had curly hair and fine hair,
Absolutely.
and they
Yep.
didn't know how to work with it. But I've
Mhm.
seen the same thing in like Puerto Rican and Dominican communities. I hear the same thing. Like aren't often taught to do relaxers, but like that weekly blowout in the salon, all
Yes.
the way
Uh-huh.
from a child going to the salon,
Yep.
get your weekly blowout, wear it straight.
Mhm.
So all these, I've learned so much just from my clients and just from listening and paying attention and hearing these stories and realizing that there was a hole in our industry where people were not telling anyone that there was a different way to do it. And when I went out into the salon for the first time in Florida, there were a lot of clients coming to me and just, I started in Vidal Sassoon, right? So I learned a lot of like precision haircutting, and everything
Yeah.
was flat ironed and everything was perfect and flowy.
Yeah. So precise.
Right, right. Super precise.
Mhm.
Everything's
Yeah.
got to connect perfect.
Yep.
But because I started there, I ended up in the beginning having a lot of clients coming to me with hair that they consider difficult or frizzy or too thick or too hard to handle. Florida's like 90% humidity year round. So
Humidity.
that humidity, it never goes away. It doesn't matter what the
Mhm.
temperature is. But they were coming to me a lot and asking for me to like smooth the hair. How do I straighten the hair? How do I keep the hair frizz free? How do I thin the hair out? How do I make it more manageable? And so that's what I spent the first couple years doing, is just like a lot of straightening and smoothing and thinning and debulking. And then started to ask myself, like, why are we not looking at the texture? Right? Because like when you're doing all this, the hair is really unhealthy, and you can see that the hair is unhealthy.
Yep.
And you start to wonder, what would this hair look like if I stopped doing all these things to it
Yep.
and we got it healthy? Like, and I realized at that point that no one was being told that that was an option. We were failing as hairstylists in the industry. We weren't telling our clients that there was another way to do it, and we weren't
Mhm.
teaching each other how to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody was just reaching for this beauty standard of smooth, straight, flat hair,
Yep.
no matter where they lived, what they had to work with.
Yep. It's true. Acting like there's a problem to be fixed, and it's like there's no problem to be fixed. You know,
Right.
everything's fine the way that it is. Yeah. Mhm.
Which is where then you start to dig deeper into that. Like, why are we doing that?
Yep.
Why does everybody think this is the beauty standard we're supposed to reach for? And it's because It's because of racism. It's because there's a white Euro standard of beauty. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and see, that's why I'm so grateful for my mom, my grandma, my great aunt. I had a lot of women in my family who, when my mom did chemically relax my hair, she did not want to do it. Like, she was absolutely 100% against it. Everyone in my family was. It was like, you're going to damage her hair. And they did not want her to relax my hair, but I was the one that was begging for it. I wanted to relax it so bad because even though you could press it and get it straight, I wanted it to stay straight. And it was a different type of straight, like it moved, you know. When we would press our hair,
Mm-hmm.
it would be with heavy oil, so it would just be stiff, you know.
Yeah.
So I really wanted the hair that moved, and I wanted the length because when your hair is fine, it looks like a lot of hair when it's curly, but it's like the curlier your hair, the finer it is a lot of the times. And so that hair just shrinks. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see length, So it's like I want to see my hair hang, and I wanted it to hang without the heavy oils too. And so that's why I'm so grateful for my family because even listening to you say that was the beauty standard. I knew that that was the beauty standard, but I was always like I was like, no, that's not the beauty standard. The beauty standard is whatever my client wants. That's the standard of beauty. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to compromise the integrity of their hair in any kind of way, I'm saying no to it. And I will give the
Mm-hmm.
disclaimer, okay, well, if we move forward with X, Y, and Z, this is what can happen. And usually when I would give the disclaimer, it's like, actually, I don't want to do that. Okay, I didn't think you wanted to do that, but let me give you the disclaimer just in case you do want to move forward. Because you do have some clients who are, I mean, they are persistent and they want what they want, any
Yeah.
means necessary, even if it can compromise the integrity of their hair. And, we as beauty professionals also have to be okay with saying, no, I'm not doing that. That's not the standard I uphold myself to as a beauty professional in the industry. And I can't do that for you because I've done
A
that
hundred
too.
percent.
Yeah. And I've done that, to some clients. And that's due to me people pleasing in the beginning only for what I already knew was going to happen to backfire on me. And they blamed it on me. And I'm like, well, it is my fault because I should have told her. The good
Mm-hmm.
thing is I learned that early on so that now it's like I can confidently say, no, we're not doing that, and eventually they thank you in the long run and like, oh, I'm so glad it was a temporary emotion and now I can move forward and I'm so happy now with my hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the psychology is in all
Yeah.
the wrong places because of the beauty standard, that was created so many years ago. And
But I think everybody, right? All curlies go through that. Like it's
yeah.
usually around middle school, I feel like middle school,
Mhm.
early high school,
Yeah.
which girls in general, right, go
Uh-huh.
through this period of time where like, how do I be like all my friends? How do I look more like them? Who
Yes.
do I fit in with? And
Uh-huh.
it sounds like that's a natural kind of progression that you went through where
It
you didn't go
was.
through that as much because you were worried about, your own hair not being perfect for you because you had an
Yeah.
amazing, wonderful environment that you were raised in where people
Yeah.
told you that you're perfect the way you are, and
Yeah.
that's what more little curly girls need, I think. More little curly
Yes.
people need. Yeah.
Mhm. But you see it shifting. You see the girls now are embracing their curls. And
Yeah.
they'll show
Yeah.
the before pictures when they were straightening their hair, thinking, "Oh, this was so, not, and it was damaging their hair because they were straightening their hair every day, and they were
Yeah.
thinking like, "Oh, my hair is so healthy, it's in good condition or it looks good." And then when they go back and revisit those pictures, they're like, "My hair was so fried." Like,
Well, what I saw later, I came back to New York in 2008 and I worked for a long time across from Vassar College. And when I started seeing a lot of college students, what I would see was a lot of either students of color or mixed race students coming in and telling me that they wanted to learn how to work with their texture because their parents didn't do it and their parents never wore
Yeah.
their texture, right? So this is their first
Mhm.
time like out of the house and finding their own hairstylist and kind of doing it their own way. And
Mhm.
that moment stuck out to me too, is just like there are these kind of timeline moments where I can see where I noticed something or something stuck in my head and I said, this is important for me to learn from this. And I could see these young college students asking me, what do I do with my hair? I don't want to straighten my hair like my parents taught me. I want to learn how to
Yes.
wear my texture. And that
Yes.
was that moment I realized that the younger generation was doing it different and like something was shifting, you know? There was
Yes.
a shift happening generationally where
Mhm.
natural texture, natural curl was being celebrated and
Yep.
they wanted to do it, but they just weren't sure how or where to go from there.
Do you ever experience
Yeah.
clients behind the chair when they don't know how receptive are they to learning? Do they approach it in a like a positive open way, or it's kind of like a shut down way of like feeling like they're incompetent of even, being able to accomplish their curls? Like, or do you get a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both, although as someone who's marketed and vocally a specialist,
Uh-huh.
I see less. Most of the time when people are coming to me, they're already looking for that information and they're very open and they're like, "I want you to teach me. I want you to show me what to
Good.
do." Before I was a specialist and I was just trying to do all the hair, like we're all taught early in our career,
I
right? We're supposed to
know,
do
yeah.
all the hair all the time.
And I'm still trying to stop doing that. I'm still trying.
We do not need to be everything for everybody. Come on.
No. And you can't nurture it and make it better.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think too, probably 10 years ago, what I was seeing was a lot more clients coming in who were still in that straightening, flat ironing stage and
Yes.
kind of going, I don't even know what my texture looks like. I don't know where to start. And sometimes it was a little tough to get those clients to take in information because even though they wanted something different, they weren't really ready to commit to that switch,
Yes.
because you're going to have bad hair for a little bit. Like you can't, it's not going to go right from heat damage to beautiful curl.
The transition, oh my god,
The transition is rough
it's rough.
and you got to just hold on and come out the other side. And, some people weren't ready for that. But now I see a lot more of clients who have been taking, they're not doing all that damage to their hair. They're just like using a lot of bad products and doing all the internet stuff, and when
Mhm.
I see them, they don't have terrible hair. They just need to change their practices and then they've got amazing hair and we can make that shift in one appointment sometimes.
Do you feel also, is it hard for your clients to see that they have amazing hair during the process? Are you able to like help them see? I know for me, I've had it. It's very difficult. So I'm wondering, is difficult for
Yeah.
you as well?
I mean, our first time appointment is really fun for us because I feel like we can do that big, like impressive transition a lot.
Okay.
For a lot of people, a lot of people, it's just a matter of like detox that hair, get all the buildup off,
Yeah.
hydrate it. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I didn't know I had all this curl, and it's really impressive.
'Cause all of the product, how it weighs the curl
Right.
down, and they don't really
Right.
know how to even define their curls, Yeah,
Right. They don't even know what it's supposed to look like. But it depends a lot on what they're coming in with, right? If you have
that's
somebody
true.
coming in with heat damage, chemical damage,
That's true.
and like that's going to take longer. You can't impress them on that first appointment because they're like, I don't really know. I've had a young lady I've been working with a little bit lately who's stuck in straightening, and I styled it curly for her one time, but she's got those straight ends that like they just need to come off. They just need to come off, and
And
she don't
she
want to
won't
take them
come
off because
off.
she, right, like you said, she's got a lot of shrinkage. She doesn't want to lose that length. She's like, it's my length, but it's like they're just done, and if I could just
Yeah,
take them off, then you would see this beautiful curl. You would
yeah,
see it just flourish. But, sometimes you got to work with people in the baby steps. You got to meet them where they're at and you have to be patient and let them
yes.
find their way a little bit.
At least that client understands I have to go through this transition in order to meet my goal.
Hmm.
What becomes more challenging for me is when they don't want to walk around with the curly roots and the straight ends. It's like, oh, my hair is so ugly. I don't like how it looks. What else can we do to it today? And it's like, cut the ends
Hmm.
off.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
other than that, if you
Yeah.
want
What are your
traditional,
options, right?
yeah, there are no options, like, I'll even explain to them, like, hair has memory. Whatever you do to it more, that's what it's going to start responding to. So,
Mhm.
unfortunately, the straight ends, they're never gonna bounce back once they're bone straight. I could see if it has some sort of wave to kind of help
Mhm.
you transition to it, into it aesthetically, but
Yeah.
them straight ends, if you
Sometimes you can push that
don't,
elasticity back in a little bit, but sometimes it's just gone.
it's just gone, and you wanna help them, you wanna save the world behind that chair, but
Yeah.
whenever you telling me about this young lady, it's like, it's not that she doesn't understand this is what I have to go through, which makes the service a
Mhm.
little more easier, even though you wanna cut those ends off. I know you wanna cut those ends off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
dream about it.
Yeah, right? You
I
know
dream about it.
what? I know, because, as the professional, we know what's best. And we
Mhm.
know cutting those ends off for her to see even the new look, because you can't see the new look with those ends. She would
Mhm.
love it, but it's like, to get her there up here, you'll never
Yeah.
be able to do that until she's ready.
And I think that's where clients fall back on those protective styles, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I
Oh.
just put it into some braids, or if I just,
Mhm.
do so, just contain it for a while
Yeah.
until the hair gets long enough that you feel secure to take those ends off. But as we know now, in the progress of our education, all of us learning better how to care for curly hair, that a protective style isn't always protective.
I literally created a TikTok about that because I was explaining the process to get a protected style. You have to stretch the curl with a blow dryer. You have to come
Hmm.
with blown out stretched hair. When you blow
And
dry
it
your hair,
stays there for sometimes weeks.
and when you blow dry your hair, you're straightening your hair. So that's
Hmm.
still going to slow down the process of you being able to reach your true definition of curl
Yeah.
pattern. So that's why I was saying on my TikTok. So is this really a protective style if the goal is to wear curly hair?
Hmm.
It can't be, because you're constantly stretching your hair. So it's not really a protective style if the goal is curly hair. And also,
Like, what are you protecting? You're
exactly.
protecting your time, maybe, because you don't have to do your hair
Yes.
every day,
Yeah,
but you're
that's
not protecting
right.
the health of that hair.
No, and especially if you think about the synthetic fibers that are also laced with canonicalized hair as well.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
also taking that hair straight out of the braiding pack and just braiding your hair without. I know, like, for me, when I wear braids, I always clean it with apple cider vinegar with a little bit of lemongrass essential oil and hot
Hmm.
boiling water or anything that's, I don't know where the hair has been before it get to me. I just want to remove all the dirt and hands or whatever, that was on the hair before I purchased it. And so
Hmm.
I will do that, in order to make sure my hair does not mix in with whatever synthetic fibers or any chemicals they have, put in their hair in order to manipulate it to look that way, because, you know, I don't know what they've done to it. And like you said, I don't wear that as a protective stylist because I'm trying to preserve time. I don't want to do my hair.
Yeah. Or just have it is, I have no judgment. I think there's a lot of styles out there that are absolutely beautiful and amazing,
Mhm,
braided, plaited styles. I love
mhm,
some good locks, beautiful.
mhm.
Sometimes,
Yeah,
if you can have all that variety in your style, go for it.
yeah,
Have fun with your hair. Like, that's what
yeah.
it's for, self-expression.
Mhm.
But I think we just have to shift our thinking a little bit so that we can do that and have that fun with our hair without putting it at risk, the health of the hair at
Yeah.
risk.
Mhm.
And maybe some of these terms, right, and some of these practices come from a time before we considered that, before we can really
Yeah.
consider the health of the hair.
Yeah, it also depends on the goal for the person, to the individual. If the goal is to maintain curls, then I would definitely say you probably shouldn't be wearing braids. And I'm not gonna say, because I wear braids maybe twice a year, and it doesn't do anything to my curls. But it also, I'm
Mhm.
not a person that takes them down and puts them back in, takes them down. Like, even when I straighten my hair, it was time for a trim, and I straighten my hair to trim my hair because I don't care for it to be cut into a curly hair shape. And it's because I do go back and forth between straight and curly and not straighten my hair. My hair is on a strict schedule. Like I'll straighten it every 3 months. It is. I'll straighten it every 3 months to cut the dead ends off. And then I'll go back to wearing it curly. And if I'm tired of manipulating my hair, then I'll go and get braids. So it's all about being very intentional with how often you are incorporating these different looks into your style as well. So if you're doing
Mm-hmm.
this back to back to back, it can cause some harm, But if you're very intentional with how often you're doing it, your hair will actually be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a client, she wore weaves for 2 years straight. Like I would take it down and we would cleanse it, treat it, trim it, put it right back in a weave. She came to me, her hair was about shoulder length, but about half of that was split and dead because whoever she was going to prior, they were just, I guess, like a hair extension specialist, but they didn't do hair care. So by the time she got to me, we had to cut it. And I was like, well, if the goal is to grow your hair, we have to cut the dead ends off. There's nothing out here that can save dead ends but a cut. We got to cut it.
Yeah.
Even these products that say, oh, a dead end sealer, or I'd be like, cut them. It's not going to seal anything. Cut the dead ends. It's nothing out here that's going to save your hair but a cut.
No.
So the good thing is she was open. She didn't give me any challenge. She was like, well, if the goal is for me to grow my hair, cut the dead ends. So we cut the dead ends. And the only thing we did was the weaves. The only thing she lost was her curl pattern, but that wasn't her goal. Her goal was to just grow it. And it went from we had to cut in a 90-degree haircut. And so the length probably sat right at the bottom of her neck, but it traveled up because it was a 90-degree haircut. And we just trimmed it according to, how hair naturally grows out of your scalp. But we got her down here. So it's like it
Nice.
depends on the goal. It's not that it's always harmful. It just depends on the
Yeah.
goal for the client. And if your goal is to maintain curly hair, then I would say we can't do that. It's not gonna be great on the curls. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just depends on the goal, the overall goal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and you got those curls too that people want to grow their hair long, but you got those curls that, like, the longer they get, they start to squeeze up and
Yeah.
shrink. And it looks like they're
Hmm.
not getting any length for,
That's
like,
the fine
the next
hair.
2 years.
Yeah, that's the fine hair. That's the fine
Oh.
texture. And I tell them it's because your strands they're skinny. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
weight.
Yep. They got to get long enough to pull it down.
Yeah, they're going to jump right back up to the scalp.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, if your hair is fine, that's why it's also more curly because there's no weight to hold that curl down so it
Mm-hmm.
can elongate. Even communicating, once I've learned how to communicate that to the client so they can understand the anatomy of their particular hair strand, it's like, I get it. And they're more receptive to knowing, oh, this is why I have so much shrinkage. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be like, the finer your hair, the curlier it is, the more shrinkage you're gonna have, So
Yeah. Which
yeah.
is, not to, like, go totally off topic here, but this is where it comes into being a specialist, right? Is like you're
Hmm.
not just coming in for a haircut. I'm going to teach you the biology of your hair. I'm going to teach
Yes,
you why the products are good or bad. I'm going to teach you what your hair can and can't do. Like, you
yes,
get hair 101. When you see a specialist, you're going to
you
go home and
do.
understand.
Yeah, if the goal is to have curly hair, you need to go to a curl specialist. Yeah.
And some people don't want to learn. They just want to go and get a haircut and call it a day. And they want to go to the salon every month and have somebody else handle it for them. And that's fine too.
Yeah.
But my goal as a specialist is to make sure my client understands their curly hair as well as I do. And that when
Mhm.
they're not with me, they have good hair. That's always
I
my goal.
know because you hear that a lot too. Like, I can never get my hair
Yeah.
the way that you did it whenever I came to you. And
You got to learn.
mhm. Yeah. But
We
it's
got
good that you are
educated, right?
educating your clients, because I do hear clients say all the time, I'm not able to, like they thank me for providing the education. Was like, because they don't teach me what to do with my hair. And I'm like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
problem in the beauty industry. You're supposed to
Yeah.
educate your clients so that when they come back to visit the salon, y'all aren't starting over from ground zero, so it's important that you educate your clients on what's going on with their hair, and how to maintain their hair at home, as well. So, like you said, they know that they have good hair when they leave the salon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that client's got to understand, right? If they want all of that, they want to understand their hair, they want to learn how to style it. It takes you more time to do that as a stylist.
Absolutely.
We got
Absolutely.
to put time. You're going to have to pay more for that because it's time.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to be in and out of here in an hour if you want me to teach you everything there is to know about your hair. And you want me to really take the time to get to know, and you want me to troubleshoot all your problems. And, that takes longer.
I'm just taking it all in.
You're taking a big breath after that
I'm
one.
taking it all in because uh it's so much I could
Yeah.
say to that because
I know. I feel like we could get off a whole nother topic on this, right?
I'm telling you, because so much goes on behind that chair. So much goes
Mm-hmm.
on behind that and beyond that chair too. So, oh,
I see you. I hear you.
oh
I
my
am with
gosh.
you.
Yeah. You know, and because you are an hourly based stylist as well, correct? I remember you
Yes.
charging by the hour. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And what is more, I don't know the word. But say for instance, there is a client that's walking in with the straight ends, curly roots. And I mean, the entire appointment, you are educating them. It takes a lot to
Mm-hmm.
educate these clients. That's besides
Mm-hmm.
being practical, that's a whole nother level of energy because we're doing this
Mm-hmm.
as a this is a custom experience. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
repetitive, terminology that we use with every client because every client has different needs and goals and desires. So you
Yeah.
take the time to provide all that education and nurture with what you have because you can only do with you can only do your best with what's presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
And to still just be questioned behind the price. I just feel like all this time, it's like for them, it's like, well, you just styled my hair. It's like, no, it was deeper than that. It was much deeper than that. You were provided tools and essentials also to take home with you in order to continue this journey. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
a one-time situation where you came here, and also the results always are not what they want at the end because they're not ready to let go of the straight ends. They want to hold on to
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, to me, it
Yeah.
just kind of makes me feel a little, ugh, inside because they're still not happy. So they be like,
I think that's where you have to have that sort of that confidence in, like, this is the service that I want to do for people,
mm-hmm.
and this is the time I need to do it in, and
Yeah,
this is how valuable my time is to me.
yeah,
And if they don't want to sign up for that, that's okay. But
yeah.
then let me give you somebody else's phone number because I'm not for you, and that's fine.
Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah. Oh
That's
gosh.
fine.
Yeah.
If
It
you don't
took
want to give me that time, then I can't fix all your problems.
right.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
you got to know who you are as an artist.
Yeah, it took me a while to get there when I first entered the curly hair, where I'm actually styling and manipulating the curls and not doing twist outs and braid outs
Mhm.
in order to create
Mhm.
definition,
Mhm.
but actually defining organic curls. And
Mhm.
it was due to a lack of confidence back then, until I enrolled into my first curly hair cutting class. And then for her to break that down to me, and she was like, "You already know this, like you already know this. It's just that you don't see it being promoted everywhere else because people are only posting, the final beautiful results, but they're not walking you through the emotional psychology that goes on in those appointments, where it's like you're actually
Mhm.
having to nurture this client and help this client, to understand what's going on with their hair and behind the chair, whether they leave happy or not. So it's just like, yeah, that's true. So it's just kind of like little baby steps. I think I took that class in 2020. And so after that,
Hmm.
it was just kind of like, okay, well, understanding like you're not a magician and don't allow them to put that energy on you like you can be a magician, So, yeah.
My back would feel a lot better if I could just wave a wand and give you the style that you want.
And I would be look, I want it for you more than you do. Oh,
Well, and
goodness.
then there's that breakdown too, I think, of, depending on the clients you're working with. But for some, I think clients are still learning the difference between a natural texture specialist and a curl specialist, and
Mhm.
thinking that, like, because I'm a natural texture specialist, I'm not doing braiding, I'm not doing locks, I'm not doing all these styles. I'm not
Mhm.
setting the hair, I'm doing wash and goes, like, because I'm teaching people what to do with their natural texture.
Right.
And so sometimes we get people who think that, well, you work with curls, so you know how to do this, you know how to do that,
Yeah.
And no, I don't, frankly. I haven't put any time into learning it because it's not what I do.
Mhm.
Or like people who have natural curly hair and they come in and they say, well, I want to get it blown out today. Like, I'm not blowing out your curly hair. That's not
Yeah.
it's not in my service offerings. I'm not doing it because I don't see it as something that's positive for your curly hair, and it's not something that I think is going to help you get to your goals with your curly hair. So,
Mhm.
it's not something that I'm offering, but
I never thought about it like that, but I can see someone wanting to come to you for a blowout, but a curl specialist is way different from a texture, a person who manipulates texture or
right,
that,
manipulating texture, right.
yeah, that's completely different. And I never thought about it at all, because I know I'm also thinking like a professional, because
Hmm.
I know what a curl specialist is. So
Hmm.
I already know not to go to a curl specialist for a blowout, a silk press, curls, with a thermal styling, like a physical change. I already know not to go to a curl specialist for that because I know a curl specialist is all about defining organic natural curls. But for a
Hmm.
client, I can see a client confusing that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely can. So, Melissa, why do you think it's essential for white stylists to acknowledge the experiences and challenges faced by people of color with natural hair?
I think it's important because you can't really claim to be a specialist if you can only accommodate a portion of the clients who fall into that specialty of need. I think it's
Right.
I think it's important because you can't call yourself inclusive if your idea of inclusivity only extends to people and hair that you understand with your own personal experience. I think it's part of being inclusive for me. I think it's important because I believe in fighting systemic racism in all industries,
Mhm.
and it's still way too present in the beauty realm.
Yeah.
We're just starting, I think, to kind of shave that off a little bit. No pun
Right.
intended.
Absolutely. Uh-huh.
I believe helping to guide people to a positive, loving relationship with their natural texture involves having some insight into their habits and their beliefs and their practices, the things that bring people to our chairs, right? That they come
Right.
to our chair with all this lived experience, what they've done with their families, what happened at home with their community around their hair. It's important to
Mhm.
understand all of that because it's all part of their picture and their journey with their hair.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's important because one of the huge things that makes working with curls, waves, and coils really special is the emotional connection and the lived
Mhm.
experiences that make up people's relationships with their texture.
Right.
And as professionals, I think we owe it to ourselves and to our clients to acknowledge that big picture, that it's more
Mhm.
than just doing a good haircut, but there's a whole planet of experience and emotion and family connection and community and culture that underlies texture.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, you're really doing a disservice to yourself
I love
as
that.
a stylist if you don't
Mhm.
envelope all of it and put an effort into understanding all of it.
Right. Have you ever heard of Destroy the Hairdresser?
Yeah, I have a Destroy the Hairdresser salon. Yeah. I believe that's
Do
where I started following
you?
you, was through Destroy the Hairdresser. Yeah.
Okay, because what I love about them, it's like the bluntness and the realness, the rawness
Mhm.
of the beauty industry. You know, they were the ones who helped me understand like you can't call yourself a specialist if you can't do it all. You
Mhm.
know, it's almost like me saying I'm a hair extension specialist, but I only can do like 4 out of the so many different types of hair extensions that are on the market. You can't call yourself a specialist if you don't do it all. And like you said, like you can't call yourself a curl specialist if you're not involved in all textures, all curly hair textures. There's no way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's just I think it's just not acceptable to say, I'm a curly specialist and then certain curls walk in the door of your salon and you say, "Oh, I don't do that curl. Oh, I can't do your
Yeah.
curl." Like
Yep.
that's not acceptable in
Not at all.
2023. That
Not
wasn't
at all.
acceptable 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I think their education is out there now. We can all put in, if you say you're a specialist, right? What that means is that you're committed to putting your time, your energy, your money into educating yourself on that specific thing. You're
Right.
focused on that thing.
Absolutely.
And you're committed to doing that, which means that you need to do that for all the different clients that you're going to see in your salon.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what inclusivity is including everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like almost back to like the general doctor example I gave. It's like, well, I can work on your knee, but I can't work on that knee.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah,
it's it's
right?
it's the same thing. Like what do you mean you can't work on my knee because it's a black knee, like or it's a white knee or an Indian knee?
Right.
Like it don't make sense. If you're a specialist, you should be able to work on my knee.
And as we said earlier, right? Texture isn't texture isn't race. They're not the same thing.
Not
You
at
can
all.
have Black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Asian people that have fine hair, coarse hair,
Yep.
tight coils, loose waves. You see it across the board.
It's across the board.
It's
It's
across
not
the
a
board.
race
So if
thing.
you're yeah, so if you're excluding the education and the understanding of working on certain hair textures because you don't want to put in the time or the effort or the care to understand
Mhm,
the unique experiences that people have with their texture only for a
mhm.
certain demographic of people or you're only doing it for a certain demographic of people, that is racism. That
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, but that is and that's
Yeah.
I obviously will never understand your lived experience with textured hair and you won't experience mine. But as a
Mhm.
professional, I can do my best to learn from you what your texture means to you and how that's attached to your upbringing and your
Yep.
community and your family, because it's all part of your picture, your unique
Yep.
picture with your
Yeah.
natural hair.
Yeah. It's a real thing. That
Mhm.
everything you're saying is what's real, it's facts, it's what's going on out here. And like I said, I didn't know the depths, but talking to you, I'm learning the depths of how it really is. And I think I don't know the depths when it comes to the racism part is because I'm so invested with Black women who are struggling with embracing their natural textured hair or curly hair.
Mhm.
It's like I'm so consumed with that the other, I can't hear it because that consumes a lot of me, when it comes to
Yeah.
me being a textured hairstylist. So it's more of that I hear. And see, I get to know what you hear and what you're more exposed to, when it comes to you being a curly hair specialist, balancing these different textures. I know even right now, the salon I'm working in, the girls say they don't do curly hair at all, no matter what race you are. No matter how curly or loose the texture is. They're like, I just don't want to work with curly hair at all because they are afraid of curly hair you
Mhm.
know and maybe it's because of the lack of education, like we mentioned earlier, that's not provided in the beauty schools, because if it was provided there, at least you have some type of foundation to at least approach curly hair, and then you continue to educate yourself from then on.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is the ultimately what we're talking about here, right? And the idea of doing this show together was that my responsibility and my approach to doing natural hair, being a natural texturist as a white stylist, is going to be a different experience than yours. Because for me, part of being anti-racist as a white stylist means that I have to put in the energy and the work and the time to repair that relationship and to make sure that I am understanding lived experiences outside of my own.
Yeah.
With my clients.
Yeah.
That is not your thing to fix.
Yeah.
The relationship between Black clients and white stylists. And that's why it's not in your universe, I think, because, you know better. Like, that's not your problem to fix. It's my problem to fix.
Yeah.
And I think more white stylists need to work on that.
Yeah. But do you think if beauty school would start, setting the foundation better for curly hair, do you feel as though it will help upcoming stylists to, make a better approach as far as, white professionals? Do you feel as though that will help white professionals make a healthier approach? Because I do feel like maybe some white women or white men who are curl specialists in the industry, or they do curly hair, but not all. I feel like the beauty school can take some type of responsibility as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It starts there, all the way from, like I talked about my experience with the clinic and having the clients and the specialists be segregated, if you will, and
Right.
all the way to, the lack of education on working with natural texture and how we go right to relaxing and straightening, which I think enforces this idea. I know for me as a white stylist with little education about working on different textures, like it enforced this idea for me that is how you manage. That is how you manage specifically coarser curly textures. Is you
Yeah.
straighten and you relax, because that was exactly where they went to in school. I didn't learn how to work with wigs. I didn't learn how to braid my hair properly. I didn't learn how to do so many things that I know my Black clients have grown up in this environment. It may not be the focus may not be on thriving natural curly hair like it is now, but like there's so much more experience and there's so much more working with the hair and there's so much more talking about the versatility of hair.
Yes.
And that's something that I think a lot of white stylists just don't acknowledge and understand when they're stuck in their ignorance and their privilege of our point of view, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you may have a lot to share with this client and you may be able to teach them how to nurture that natural hair because they didn't learn that. But that client has learned so much about hair and about managing hair and working with hair that you have no clue about yet. And just respecting that difference in experience and how some cultures really have so much more focus on working with their hair, right? Indigenous people, the same way. They grow up learning how to nurture their hair, learning how to braid their hair, learning how to use their hair for expression. And there's religious connections to hair for lots of cultures, and for a lot of people, it represents, your family or your wealth or your specific tribe or so many different things. And, and the point here is that as white people, especially white Americans, right? A lot of us just don't have that cultural background. We don't have that connection to hair. And I think that deserves a lot of respect and a lot of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
That there is a different relationship built in for some people that I just, I have so much respect for, and that I want to acknowledge and say, like, hey, this matters to this client and it needs to matter to me if I'm going to take care of them,
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what's going to help bridge this gap too. Is it takes one person and it just becomes like a domino effect of people at least trying to understand how it can be a little deeper emotionally, psychology, depending on the client that you're working with, especially in an ethnic background, because our hair is related to so many different things. When it do come to a lot of our styles are not just, oh, I just want to do my hair like this today. It's like some things are for expression, some things are based on history. There's so many reasons why we do what we do. Even me, like I have a complete tradition what I do with my hair. I have a goal set in mind. I do want to maintain healthy hair and length. That's my goal. And also, I want to maintain my curls. And whenever I straighten it, I want it to stay straight whenever I straighten it, even though it doesn't stay as straight as I would like it to be after a couple of days, because I don't wear it as straight. I don't wear it straight as much as I do curly. And even with my clients, there's intent behind every single decision in that appointment. Even wearing the wigs, or I'm gonna go get braids. There's so many reasons. When I was younger, braids were just a form of expression. I just want braids. I just want to wear braids. I love braids. I want to wear braids. But today it's more like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a situation where I'm using this for a low maintenance style. Like I need a break. Because manipulating kinky hair on a daily, it's overwhelming. Because I
Who's
have
got that time?
I have kinky hair, and a lot of the times I don't use my natural organic curl pattern to wear my curls. Because I know by day 2, this is going to be uncontrollable. I cannot, just spritz a little water and condition on it, and I'm gonna be good to go. It's going to be pretty untamed in certain areas too, because some parts of my hair is kinkier than the others. So it's just like, I got to take time to manipulate it to get it all cohesively looking, to the finish that I desire to have. So I will manipulate my hair and do a twist out just so I can preserve, the hairstyle and not to spend so much time, in my hair. And I can get at least a week out of that. And it's like, whoo, made it through the week. All right, now I'll start over. And the first time I did see my natural curl pattern styled and finished was from a white lady who literally DM'd me, saw my curls, and she said, I'm living in Texas and I'm from the DMV area. We don't have to maneuver through this situation of, oh, I'm white and I only do white hair, and I'm black and I only do black hair. She was like, we just do hair over there. She was like, I haven't had an opportunity to show, potential clients that I can also style kinky textured hair. Do you mind being a model for me? And I'm like, absolutely not. And that was the first time I seen my curls. And I love my curls. They're kinky and they're coily, but I know how to manage them if I make the time. But I'm just like, I'm not making the time. That entire salon is a salon in Austin that are open to, they're not afraid to approach, kinky hair. And I'm seeing it grow slowly, where it's curly stylists like you, because she's a curly specialist. They're being more open to wanting to know. I taught a class to a predominantly white salon last year, and they wanted to know. So it's like it's starting with you, and this podcast can kind of like, get the word out even more, because, I think she has 2 salons down there. She's not the owner, but she is a stylist in a salon. It's trying to grow into this thing of like, yeah, we need to stop. Like, this is, it is racism, and we can't call ourselves specialists if we're not tapping into every culture. We can't turn clients away because they have a texture I'm not comfortable with juggling. So and it's a slow transition in Austin. It ain't there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a healing, right? It's a healing process. Like you said, bridging a gap, healing a long-standing separation between people in the beauty industry, and what's considered beautiful and what's not considered beautiful, and what's considered acceptable, what's considered polished, what's considered done, right? And getting rid of all of these concepts and sort of going back to like, what's beautiful and what's polished and what's done is for you to decide as an individual. It's not for me to decide. It's not for my mom to decide. It's for you as an individual. And once we empower, I think, each other to grasp that and to really live it, then we can break down some of this this old resentment and sort of ignorance and misunderstanding between people, that exists. I think I'll share with you an experience I had a couple years ago that really kind of nailed it home for me. If you want some tea, I'll give you some tea.
Yeah.
I worked for another salon before I owned my salon. a few of them, but this was one that I worked for. And one of the owners in the salon was considered a local curl specialist. And she was invited to the local college to sit in on a panel for a Hispanic sorority, right? And they were presenting a panel that was all about natural texture. And she knew that I was going into specialize in curly hair, so she invited me to join her on the panel. I said, absolutely, I love this. This is a great opportunity. So we went and sat down. We were the only two professionals on that stage, on that panel. We were on a stage in front of a packed standing room only room, which was overwhelming. But
I bet.
We were the only two professionals on that stage, and we were the only two non-Hispanic women on that stage. And I was like, well, I'm about to learn some stuff, so I'm going to listen. And
I love that. Like, it's like, it doesn't matter for you if you are afraid. You just know that it's obviously a problem and it needs to be addressed. And it's like, a problem over the fear. It's like, that's empowering, but that's scary.
I was terrified. I said, am I about to have like myself ripped here by all these, intense, confident Hispanic women are going to tear me down. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen. I was on that panel. We actually didn't talk a whole lot because the people that were on that panel had a lot to say, and it was great to listen in on it. But they started the panel with a beautiful video that was made by one of the students, which was all about her experience with her family breaking her natural texture down and saying negative things to her and feeding her ideas of, not put together well enough to leave the house or see anyone unless she had her hair blown out straight. And kind of growing out of that as she got older and sort of learning that she wanted to reclaim her identity with herself and how that was connected to her texture. And it was amazing. Like, it made me feel all the feelings. And I was sitting there like, this is how they started the panel. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so like, I feel this to my core. Yeah. And I just, the whole experience for me was humbling, and it was amazing to sit there and listen to so many people talk about their relationship with their curly hair, specifically from a Hispanic point of view. A lot of them were Dominican, Puerto Rican, and like I felt like I had been given like a VIP pass to sit in on, on like in a giant family dinner that I never would have been invited to, and I got to learn so much and hear all these voices. And we went back to the salon afterwards, and my boss said to me, what did you think of that? And of course, there was a lot of discussion around racism in this panel, and around a white beauty standard and how that affects their community in particular. And I said, I told her everything I just told you. I thought it was incredible, and I feel humbled, and I feel like so grateful to be invited into that space and to learn from that. And then there's so much for me to think about. I'm going to take it home with me, and I'm going to stir it over and absorb it and let it sit with me for a while, because it's a big subject. And her response to me was, well, I just don't get it, because I grew up with curly hair too, and I never had any problems with my curly hair. Nobody ever made me feel bad about it. And I just don't think it's a racial thing at all. And
But that's your own unique experience.
Right. But like, this was my boss. So like, I was like, oh, okay.
But she can't see it, because that was her experience. The
face that you're making right now is the face that I was making in my head.
What?
Like, what?
What are you talking about? It's absolutely racist. It's definitely racist, and what even intrigues me too is how the European standard, it really, not just within the Black community, I'm learning even within the Hispanic community, like it really,
it permeates everywhere,
and I'm like, if you can't see that was racism, when it's not just in one group, in one origin, but also in another origin, that's systematic racism.
It's
right there.
multiple. I have a friend who's Filipino, and she has natural curly hair, and she explained to me at the first time I did her hair that, in her culture, having natural curly hair was seen as messy, was seen as dirty. I think she even used the word loose or easy. that there was this like connotation connected to your essentially like your sexual
Oh,
activity and like who you are out in the world. Yeah, it was connected to how you wear your hair. But I know I had no concept that this was also a thing in Filipino culture. But this is what happens when we listen and we learn from people.
and see, loose mint, but I'm thinking like there's no way that they're speaking on loose in a sexual situation when it comes to hair. Because I'm
Hmm.
like, I know what that means, but not associated with hair. Is that something like loose curl? Or,
No.
girl,
Well, I
oh,
think it's that sort of like pure, right? Like if you're put together and polished, you're you're clean and you're pure and you're a good girl, But if you're like messy and you're not taking care of yourself,
oh
yeah.
wow.
A a whole lot of assumptions being made, right? Around a hairstyle.
Even yesterday when I was at that wedding, one of the bridesmaids was I'm sorry, she's Dominican. And to me, she's very rebellious in a really great way, though. It's like, I'm not going to do something I don't want to do. And she was telling me that her mom was forcing her to relax her curls based on some of the same situation. Well, she didn't use the term loose, but it was like, it's just not polished,
Hmm.
it was cleaner, straighter. And she was just like, no, I'm not straightening my curls. She said, I just never wanted to. I never had a desire to. I loved my curls and I just wanted to wear my curls.
Hmm.
And she was like, but it was a lot of pressure because that was coming from, she's the only girl. And so it's like, that can be a lot of pressure and you the only focus of attention to.
Hmm.
It'd be a lot of pressure on you and for you to stay so rebellious and just like absolutely not, as a young
Yeah.
woman too. And as a little girl, you still just like, no, because her mom did relax her hair when she was younger. But when she started stepping into her home, she was just like, I don't want to do that no more. And,
Yeah.
and I learned from her yesterday that they were also trying to, transform into the European standard of beauty as well.
Hmm.
I didn't know that because I don't know. I just didn't know. I didn't know that. And I'm just learning more and more,
We're still fighting that, right? And the natural hair like circles, we're still fighting. Even if you don't use the word beauty standard, how many curly hair products do you see marketed to curly people using words like shiny, smooth, frizz free? These are not things that curl does. These are things that straight hair does. And we're
Yes.
still trying to like pound that
Yep.
into curly people. Like, this is what you're supposed to reach for. This is what you should be chasing. You should be chasing this shine and this smoothness and this totally frizz free,
Yep.
polished finish.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
curly people, even wearing their natural curls, still think that that's what they're supposed to chase. Their product is supposed to do that for them.
And even
No.
I'm a girl. I like even a couple of my clients, like whenever we do consultations, I encourage them, like, it's okay for the hair to have a little frizz. It's okay. Like some, I'm not talking about frizzy with no definition,
Frizz is
but
Satan, right? Frizz is everybody.
I actually like a little frizz because it makes my definition look more natural, especially when I'm doing a twist out, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that's not my natural organic pattern. So whenever I achieve, like by day 2, I'm happy with my twist out because I'm like, oh, it looks like I woke up like this. Like it's not my. And the good thing about a twist out, it comes very close to your natural curl pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It comes very close, but of course it's not. But I love the frizz because people ask me, like, what are you doing to define your curls? Like your curly hair. I'm like, this is a twist out. But the frizz gives the illusion, like, oh, it looks like her organic curl pattern. So I really try to encourage my curly girls, embrace the frizz. It's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh
And
my
it's
God.
it's something that constantly reminds me of the different understanding, I think, of beauty standards between white clients and many other clients is when you have my hair is fine, right? And silky textured.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have someone with texture like me who sits in the chair and says, "Oh, my hair's so frizzy. Oh my God, I have so much frizz." And they've got like a little bit of flyaway. Like, really? That's what you think is frizzy?
That's I'm speaking of like little bitty,
Little
just
tiny pieces.
my little tiny pieces.
Yeah.
Little tiny pieces.
Or somebody with silky fine hair like mine shows me pictures of high density 3D curl standing up off the head. Like, I'm sorry, but that is not for you.
And also, like, they don't know sometimes the way how they angle and position, they'll have their clients to lift the hair up.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't see the hand to give this illusion like, oh, there's so much volume. You know, social media is responsible as well for the psychology that's not healthy when it comes to our curly hair girls.
No.
Because I'm like, I have to understand that there are certain angles that are hit intentionally, certain light that's hit intentionally in order to give that overall appearance. I've seen where stylists tell their clients, because they're educating you on how to create the illusion. And they like lift the hair up and it creates this lift and it's like boom, you know, like the hair looks so good. But it makes our jobs so hard behind that chair.
Yeah. Yeah. I use the terms 2D and 3D curl a lot, and I explain to people 2D curl, like my curl, is curl that naturally hangs. It's always going to naturally fall and hang. It is not going to come off your head. 3D curl naturally comes off your head. It does not hang. It takes a really long time before it can hang.
It does.
They behave completely differently, and they create different shapes, and they have different reactions to different kinds of cutting. And it's all, you know, it's you can't have 10 inches of hair with silky hair and expect it to stand up off your head.
It's not.
You need texture to create volume. If the hair is silky, you can't have volume.
And oh gosh, to like consult and break it down.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but the unrealistic expectations, right? Like you said, social media is responsible, marketing is responsible, those product companies. Yeah. You know, it's all, even influencers. I know you did it opposite. I love your podcast on this. Thank you very much for talking about that thing that people need to talk about more. Yeah. But influencers putting out pictures and videos that are edited down, acting like that's their natural curl, and they got out of bed and they did a 5-minute routine and they got there. It's not realistic, and it's just feeding into that negative self-talk that we're working so hard to beat, right?
Exactly. And like I said, in return, it makes the client's life, you know, harder. Like you said, they need to leave with good hair, you know, and they never have an opportunity to feel like their hair is good because of all of these. It's so much misinformation out here, you know, from people who have no idea of what goes on beneath the surface of a friggin' hair strand.
Yeah. I think the experience that I saw people having around their curly hair in the salon was a big inspiration for me in focusing on curly hair. Hearing these stories, hearing clients say to me over and over again, I just don't have good hair. I don't have good kind of curl. I can't have the kind of curl that I can wear natural. I wish I could, but I just can't have that.
Aiming for? What is the curl that they're aiming for? What do for your clients? What is the curl pattern? What is the aim? I need to know.
I don't know. I think it's just not yours. It's just not whatever. I don't mean yours.
I'm glad that. Yes.
It's just not whatever you wake up with, you know, like we all have this like innate kind of feeling that somebody else's everything is better than what we already have.
I'm so glad you said whatever is not theirs, they are happy with it. Because
sorry, I meant theirs, not yours.
But you know, you're speaking in terms of the client, you know, so I understood where you were coming from when you said that. But I'm glad you said that, because now it makes me feel as though, okay, because now I'm not just in my head. Like, it just sounds like you just not happy with your curls and anybody else's. like even with my own texture, they'll see mine like, your curls are nice and mine would never do that. And I'm like, well, these aren't my curls. I manipulated with a twist out, you know? So we can do the same. Of course, it's not going to be the same exact look because your texture is different. And all of the above that comes, you know, that comes into play when it comes to defining curls in whichever way you want, whichever route you choose to go. But your curls are beautiful the way that they are. Like, I don't.
When they're healthy, right? And a lot of it is that they don't know how to make it healthy. Once you get it healthy, they go, oh, okay.
Yes.
Maybe I do have good hair.
Yeah. And also them learning how to manipulate their hair, you know, as well, whether you're going to manipulate it in an organic shape or, you know, in whatever textured look you're aiming for. It's like also just knowing what to do with your hair. Cause I've had clients that they don't like their hair. They have bad hair because of, oh, the texture and oh, it's too short and oh, the shrinkage. And I'm like shrinkage is like your best friend. If you have shrinkage, that's a really good sign of good, healthy, curly hair. So shrinkage don't get enough credit, you know? Yeah. So, but once I teach them, you know, how to manipulate their hair and how to arrive to those results, then it's like, I love my hair, but I don't get to experience that a lot because the lack of patience, you know, they want it done in one appointment. I'm like, it takes time. You have to learn this. This is a skill set. This is not something you just 1 + 1 = 2. You know, it requires a skill set and patience.
Yeah. I mean, they learned how to straighten their hair, right? So they got to learn how to wear it curly too. We don't learn anything without a little practice.
Why did I think of that? So true. You learn how to straighten your hair, then you need to learn how to. Yes, yeah.
Like it takes time for us to learn all of the things.
Yep. So why aren't we making the time to learn how to manipulate and style our curls and nurture our curls, take care of our curls, whatever the case may be? Why won't we put the same energy into that as well? I don't know. I will say when I was receiving relaxers, it did take me less time to do my hair. And I will say I didn't go into this mood of, oh, today I gotta wash my hair. You know, I never experienced that with relaxed hair unless I was on a time crunch. And it's like, oh my God, I can get it done. That was the only overwhelming experience that I experienced. But now that I have curly hair, it is like, okay, am I going to wash it in the shower? Am I going to wash it in the sink? Am I going to wash it at the salon? Okay, how am I going to get through this process quicker than I would like? You know, I do visit my head more with natural curly hair. I will say that. Because it's the time it takes to moisturize too. Because when I do my hair, I'm intentional. I don't just slap the conditioner on and rinse it out and go. Like you have to separate that hair and saturate that conditioner through because straight hair, it'll just glide smoothly on from roots to ends. But with curly hair, in some places, you're not going to nurture moisture because it's curly. And so you have to run that product through it, you know? And if you just sit it on your hair, it's not going to nurture and moisturize or hydrate anything, you know? So I think that too, it's like, oh, the time it takes me like 10 minutes to go through my curls and like, but in the end, I'm like, but look at my hair. It looks great. I love my hair. It's nice and healthy. I think my impatience come from taking the time to nurture it because I'm going to do that, you know. But if I was just the person like, oh, let me just wash it and get it over with, then it would take no time, no effort. But then what happens with that? Then your hair is not, the integrity overall eventually will be compromised, you know?
I mean, let's be honest here, as hairstylists, right? We rarely take the time on our own hair. Let's not lie. We don't. Yeah. We are so lazy with our own hair.
Yeah, I'm not though. I will say I'm not. I've never been lazy, and I think it comes from just growing up with my family. It was like there was no room. It was like, no, you go take care of your hair. You know, I think it's embedded in me. You know, like even like my hair is swelling up because I still pressed it a week ago to give it a trim. You know, and I wanted to wash it and wear my curls for the podcast today, but I was like, I'm too tired. I can't do it. I'm not gonna do it. You know, because I knew I wasn't going to take the time to nurture it, I was like, nope, I'm not going to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and I knew we were going to do this podcast in a week, but I also was on my deadline to wash and trim my hair. So I'm sticking to my schedule,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to have to throw on a hat, wear the little poofy. I'm not taking nothing else to smoothen this stuff out. I'm not touching my hair because hair care is like at top tier for me, you know?
Hmm.
So I am one of those stylists who would be like, no, I gotta take care of my hair. I'm not doing it to my hair. Even with my daughter, it's she has locks, so it's not as she don't have to go through what I go through at all. You know, it's easy to moisturize. You know, she can spray her water and leave in and go. Yeah, it's super rare. Yeah, because locks is the most easiest, low maintenance, natural textured hairstyle on the planet. You know, even my son, we don't have to go through all of what I go through. You know, but yeah, I'm very intentional. Very intentional.
Good for you.
Yeah, even when it was relaxed, it was healthy, relaxed. I did experience some chemical damage, but that was due to over processing with color, but it was not with, you know, relaxed hair. So
yeah,
I think my great aunt, rest her soul, she passed a couple of years ago. It's like those voices, they never leave. You know, especially when you were brought up as a kid like that. So if I neglect my hair, I feel like I'm dishonoring, you know, the people who taught me hair care, you know, years ago. But it's very common for us as stylists because we're so busy taking care of everyone else. It's like, I don't feel like doing my hair today, but I will throw on a hat and a ponytail and move on, you know, in order to keep from reapplying heat to my hair, you know, and things like that.
Yeah. And let's say the truth here too is that I think you and I, the way that we may be judged or seen for being lazy with our hair is different.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Let's keep putting that racism on the table.
It's completely different.
And understand that I can walk around with frizzy hair wrapped in a messy bun with a few chunks falling out, and everybody thinks, oh, she's got a cute little bun in her hair today, right? But yeah, if a young Black woman walks around with a messy bun in her hair and a few pieces of hair sticking out, the truth is in our culture right now, that is going to be judged differently.
Yeah, and you saying it make me wonder, is that where that came from with my family? It's like, no, go tame your hair, go tame your hair, go take care of your hair. You know, you saying that.
You know, part of it is we do want to love and nurture ourselves, and we want, you know, hygiene is the way that we take care of ourselves and we care about ourselves. But like, is it about caring about yourself, or is it about fear of how the outside world is going to encounter you?
I think it could be like a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, but you are absolutely correct. Like, there's no way, like, even wearing a standard fro would be a little alarming, you know, for especially walking around, you know, in the southern part of the hemisphere, you know, like what is going on, you know? So, you know, it is certain styles, you know, and that's just like, that's a style, like throwing it out evenly, you know. But, you know, in both cultures, you know, like even in Black families today, that's not acceptable. It's from all different types of, and I'm like, and I know from Black families, it's not acceptable because of what they're thinking about, the systematic racism of the European beauty. You know, I already know where it's coming from, you know.
That's why I think it's important for us, for me to think about it, right? And for other white stylists to acknowledge, like, how many different ways have we touched on how race connects to hair and texture in this conversation? It just, for me in my brain, I see the branches and I go, oh, why doesn't that sit well with you? Why doesn't it sit well with me, right? Why does it feel different for each of us? And usually the reason for that is racism. and the fact that we are judged and seen differently in society for different stupid reasons, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I fell in love with curly hair from an afro. My very first curly hair crush was an afro, so I always have forever like a love.
I want to hear about it. Tell me. I want to know.
Do you remember Lenny Kravitz?
Of course. Yes. Who don't?
Yes. I'm a Gen Xer, so I'm a kid. I grew up on MTV, and
and he was over MTV.
I know he was on MTV a lot back in the 90s. I can't remember her name, but he has an amazing drummer, a woman drummer. And I'm sorry for musicians out there. They're going to hate me for this because I know she's a super talented drummer and I just can't remember her name.
Yeah, so we'll both take that lick. I don't know.
But she, on MTV, I remember in his videos, he had this beautiful female drummer, this black woman, and she had this huge, huge afro that was just combed out, to another planet. It was so amazing. And she would wear different colors. And when she played the drums, her hair would just go like this and like move with her body. And I just remember as a preteen watching that and just thinking, oh my God, I want that hair one day. Like I'm going to have that hair one day. I'm going to get it. I want a big giant hairstyle and I want it to move. And, of course, no concept at that time that was not possible for me to have that hair, but I just fell in love with it. And it made me just it started kind of an obsession with texture and just the different textures and the different things that hair is capable of,
Yeah.
And she just epitomized, just this badass woman with this amazing hair that makes like no apologies and no excuses. It takes up so much space, which is another, I'm sorry to run down another rabbit hole here, but
where was that?
This is another place that I have realized in my career doing curly hair that I think matters too is the thought that curly hair does take up space, right? It takes up a lot more space than straight hair. Mm-hmm. And I see the connection in a lot of specifically in clients that I work with, especially women identifying clients, female identifying clients who I think there is part of that resistance or that discomfort with wearing their natural texture sometimes comes from the fact that it requires them to take up more space. It requires us to claim space in the world and not ask for permission for that, right? And that's something that a lot of us are just starting to figure out how to feel a sort of way about our presence in the world and being able to claim that space.
Yeah.
And didn't grow up with the confidence to do that. And so I think that sometimes I work with people and I see them sort of, they're curled up and they're kind of shut down and like they want to wear that natural texture, but they're so afraid of it being too big or too fluffy or too frizzy.
Yeah.
And what I hear and what I feel from them is this kind of like a part of them is still kind of hiding and like, knowing that letting that hair explode and be what it is, and instead of trying to manipulate it and take it down, means that, they're going to get attention and the people are going to see them for who they are and they're going to claim that space around them for their own.
Yeah. And so a lot of the time, like you just don't want the attention. You just, I just want to walk in the building and just not be recognized like everybody else, Like the hair draws so much attention, Even I myself have to some degree, I'm like, well, I'm not going to wear it like that today because I don't want anyone asking me about my hair. It's not an admiration, it's like, I just want to go here and be respected or be acknowledged just for my reasoning of being here, and I don't want no one asking me about my hair, and I know I've put certain hairstyles, especially when I do a flexi rise set, like I get a lot of compliments, and I'm one of those people who like compliments. Actually, I know this is probably deep rooted somewhere. It's like kind of makes me uncomfortable to receive a compliment. It's like so much attention. I don't like a lot of attention on me like that. Not when it's aesthetic. Like me, I'd rather be complimented by, oh my gosh, I love your podcast, things like that, But aesthetic, it's like I don't really like those compliments, you know. And I know I should welcome them. I know I should be, but it's really hard for me to receive them. And so I know when I wear that rod set, everyone compliments that hairstyle, and it's just so overwhelming for me. And it's just something I know I need to work on because that's just a genuine compliment, you know. But I have intentionally avoided that style unless it was like for a photo shoot or like an event where I'm going. It's like a lot of people there and no one is gonna notice me, you know, something like that. But other than that, if it's gonna be a closed environment, I'm like, I'm not wearing that hairstyle. I'm not wearing that hairstyle. I don't want to talk about hair because you know I'm not here for that. When I'm here to talk about hair, I do want to talk about hair. But you know, if I'm here trying to going to a conference that's about business marketing or something like that, I don't want to talk about hair.
Yeah. It's kind of similar to like getting a short haircut, right? If you get a short pixie cut, you got to be ready to wear it out in the world with confidence and back it up.
You sure do.
You're going to have big curly hair, like it's going to bring attention and it's going to bring a lot of focus to you that's different. But I don't think that's a bad thing either. I think as women, like we can learn. We are learning, right? To claim our space and to not apologize for it. And also to have the right to not get the attention when you don't want it and say, no, thank you.
It's just sometimes like, cause I am an introvert too.
Yeah.
So that.
Me too.
Have conversations with strangers, you know, and I'm like, you know, just awkward, you know, just awkward. You know, you say you were an introvert, you know how it is. It's like,
yeah.
I don't mind.
You gotta have the energy to be prepared for that. And sometimes you just don't have the energy to give it. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't have the energy. It's like, I just want to exist, but I don't want to engage.
Yeah. Well, and you know, again, you know, like your experience with getting I'm sure that the way you get compliments on your hair is different based on different people, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I have maybe one or two experiences where it was different, and like when I get compliments from like Black women, it is different opposed to, you know, a white woman or any other woman of a different ethnicity. Black, but it's all kind of in the same realm because they do want to know, how did I achieve it? Even Black people want to know too, because they're also learning how to style and take care of their hair too, you know. So it still tailors to the same wanting to know how.
Yeah.
And I may have had maybe one white lady to compliment it, just asking, can she touch it? You know, and that was it. No one else. Only one white woman that's ever asked. And she was Russian, but I mean, she asked to touch it, and that was it. But other than that, I have not ever ran into a situation where my boundaries felt violated.
That's really excellent. Yeah.
And maybe because I don't also put myself out there either, because like I said, I'm an introvert. I'm an indoorsy person. I don't be out a lot, you know, so.
Well, yeah. And, you know, us introverts tend to have a good, like, RBF too, right?
That's true.
We're practiced. We're like, don't come in my space.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, our mannerisms can be very loud, right? They can be very loud. Yeah.
I always struggle a little bit as a hairstylist in that when I see hair out in the wild that I appreciate, and I immediately want to recognize, because I also consider myself a very staunch feminist. And so when I see another woman walking around with beautiful hair, like I want to pump her up, you know? And that is my first reaction. But, you know, also I'm an introvert, so I'm like, oh, I gotta say, but I don't want to talk to her too much, and I don't want her to know I'm a hairstylist. Immediately running down all the what ifs in my head, and like all I want to do is say I love your hair. That's all I want to do, and I just
we literally talk ourselves out of it. Like we
talk myself out of it.
Girl, we got to work on it. We definitely have to work on it as introverts. I even have a friend that I always say, like I'll be on the phone with them and I'll say like, oh my gosh, like I love her outfit. Her outfit is so cute. And they'd be like, well, go tell her. And I'd be like, no.
Weird. Like, I'm not gonna walk up to her and say like, "Oh, your outfit is cute," or whatever the case may be. I'm like, she might think I'm weird or something. Like, thank you. And I don't even know if I developed that culture from when I moved to the DMV, because I did receive, being that I am from Louisiana and we are Southern, we will say hi to a complete stranger. And I'm not that introverted. If I make eye contact with you, I will say hi,
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved over there to the DMV, I noticed like that's not acceptable. You don't say hi to strangers. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, there was a time where I wouldn't mind just we're walking past each other. We make eye contact, like hello, and we keep walking. We're not
Yeah.
gonna stop for a conversation. When I moved to the DMV, I learned to stop doing that. And then I moved to Texas, and now it's like, oh, it's okay to do that now. And it's like maybe I'm just kind of stuck now, where it's like I want to say something, but I know I used to catch a little backlash from even just making eye contact with a random stranger, and we're walking past each other and say hi. Because I'm like, I did used to I never complimented no one because I knew that was stem conversation in some kind of way. I'm not trying to stem conversation. I just want to compliment you and keep walking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You gave me an idea for like a social media post. I feel like I need to make a post now. Like,
Yay!
how how, like, for specifically for like how white people should give compliments.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
Okay.
just say I like your hair. Just say I like your hair and move
That's a
on. We do
That's
not ask about how that hair got on your head or how
oh my God.
or where it came from. We
Worst
do
one
not
to tell you.
we
That's
do
the
not
worst.
try to touch the hair. We do not we do not ask about your parents and their hair.
Yeah.
Just give a
Just
compliment and keep moving like you're on the subway.
yeah.
Just,
I think that's the best way to compliment it, for sure. I
that's
really
what I
do.
usually do. I make good eye contact and just say, I love your hair.
Yeah.
They smile and say, yes, have a nice life. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't owe me any more time, any more answers. I got no
Yeah.
business knowing anything else about you or your life. I just want to say, I love your hair.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. That's a great compliment for sure. Yeah. Yeah, because then it comes with, and then you do have some, Black women who probably receive it in a way of feeling like, is this coming from a racist place, or is this,
Mm-hmm.
actually coming from a complimentary space, or is this coming from a space of admiration? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I believe that's a space, that's an easy space of admiration. I love your hair. Your hair is
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah,
There's
I
there's
think.
admiration and then there's like disrespectful curiosity, right?
Yes,
And those two
disrespect.
things,
Yeah.
I think those two things can be very close to each other. And so, yeah, the words matter, right? And the verbiage matters, and making respectful eye contact with someone matters.
Yeah. Yeah. It does matters. It do. It matters a lot. Oh man. It's just so
Big
but
conversation, right?
it is a big conversation. It's like one of those sit down conversations where it's like me, you, and others on a panel too, where it's like a huge video and we all are just talking. This
Oh
is a
man.
this discussion is bigger than me and you on this podcast.
Yeah. I
It
see the
is.
wheels turning. They're turning.
Yeah, and hopefully we can get there one day. So, Melissa, how do we work towards promoting diversity and inclusivity within the beauty industry?
I think the most obvious thing is having more voices at the table whenever you're planning, when you're putting together projects, when you're, building a team. You can't create diversity without diversity, right? Without diverse voices.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and not just having voices at the table, but opening up the creation at the beginning of something to everybody's input and everybody's point of view, and trying to Personally, what I like to do is, this sounds really simple, but just seeking out education being taught by people of color. I think that there's a lot of conversation in the curly industry right now around educators and already popular, well-known, well-paid white educators being given many, many opportunities to teach natural hair and to teach inclusivity and things like this. And there are a plethora of amazing artists out there of color who have not been given those opportunities, not been given those voices. So I make it a point often to just seek out, if there's something I want to learn, there's something I feel like I need to expand on, I'm going to look at who's teaching it first. I'm going to see if that person has receipts on, are they teaching something that they can show that they actually do actively and do well. And, if the choice comes down, I've got a few people who all fit that category, and one of them is a person of color, I'm going to go with that person because, again, that person has a different experience, has a different point of view, has a different voice than what is always out there.
Right.
And there's so much value to that, to bringing all those different voices in, because you can't expand your understanding of something if you just keep hearing it in a tunnel of voices that sound like yours, right?
That's true. Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think just financially supporting more businesses, Black-owned businesses, people of color. I try to seek that out because not only does it help, that's how we get more voices at the table, is by building up that equity, right? Of everybody having a seat equally and everybody having the same voice in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that needs to happen financially. A lot that needs to happen financially is the truth. And I think that supporting businesses, and the only way that we're going to create this a beautiful, diverse industry that we can all flourish in the same way, and that we can all understand each other better in, is that everybody has to have opportunities to be heard in that space. And as a business owner who I consider my business to be inclusive and diverse, I try to find every different way that I can sort of support that mission, and how I hire, and the clients that I see, and the businesses that I support, and the information that I share, even just sharing information and amplifying voices.
Absolutely.
Just there's so many different ways that you can use what you have access to lift up and amplify other voices and put them in the same place that your voice is,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just being humble enough, I think, sometimes to just listen and learn and understand that your experience is not the end all to this. There's so much more out there to learn.
Always more. It's always more out
Always.
here to learn. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
We'll never stop learning it. This is an evolving industry. All of those vowels, an evolving industry. Gosh. And so there's no way you can be the end of it all. You would never. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be something more advanced to learn in order to help our clients, and also in order to help us to be better professionals. So you can't be the end of it all. We all can learn from each other. You can help me with some things I'm not sure about. I can help you. Clients help us too with their own hair. All help each other in some way.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I often hear hairstylists come to the table and say, like, I've been in this industry for 30 years and I have this, and this to give you. And, that always reads to me as like, listen, I've done my time. I know what I need to know. I'm here to talk at you and give you information from my experience. Right. And like, when I think I've been in this experience for 23 years, and what follows that for me is that, like, and there's so much more that I still don't know. There's like,
it is.
It just means I have to work a little harder to keep things interesting for me, and to keep myself curious, and to keep my art exciting, because it's been with me for so long.
Right. Absolutely. And with you saying that, I've heard. I really hate when people. When people even ask me how long you've been in the industry, you know, it's hard to answer it sometimes because you don't want to come off as that know-it-all, because you've had years. It's kind of uncomfortable sometimes, whenever you being asked that question, because that question can be asked from different ears.
Intentions, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're asking for different reasons, But like you said, like 23 years in and you're still open to learning, that's only your opportunities for growth are just going to expand even more, opposed to someone who's just like, oh, I've been in this industry. My way of saying this is to let you know I know it all. I'm here to tell you what to do. I'm not here to listen to none of y'all because I know more than you because I've been doing it longer than you. But being that the industry does evolve a lot, it doesn't matter if you've been in for 50 years. You're never going to know. Yeah.
And it makes the assumption that someone who hasn't been in the business long, that they don't know enough to have something to share.
Right.
One of my favorite things about having apprentices is I always learn from them. I learn things from them.
I was literally going to say it's not true because I've learned from people I've taught, it's just, you have to be open to listening to anyone who has something to say. Even me, I was dead on a certain technique that I feel like, well, this works in general for everyone. Only to learn like, no, it don't. And I was so dead on that specific technique to learn like, it doesn't work, So even being open to that and not forcing this specific technique on someone else because it worked for the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been in education rooms like that. And I'm like, that's not going to work for someone who has a finer texture or, whatever the case may be. That's for a specific individual, So, I've been in rooms like that too. And I'm like, that's not the end of that technique or that skill. Like even educators out there like that, that's concerning to me too, when they teach with an exact, when there's so many different ways to arrive to whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, but your way is not the right way, even though you're going to arrive there. It's just, even some educators, need to be re-educated on delivery. And, one thing I learned about, she's a bridal hair specialist, Lala's Updos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to one. You do?
Yeah.
Okay, so I went to one of her classes in New Jersey. She was the first person that she's a great educator. I really enjoyed her class because I was so dead on trying to make that style look exactly like hers. And she was like, what you arrived with is beautiful. I'm just trying to teach you technique. You don't have to do what I did. You don't have to make it, look completely like my hairstyle, but you learning this specific skill set is going to teach you how to build a correct updo. And I learned it from her, just like, dang, why am I so dead on making it so exact, so perfect, when all I'm here really to do is learn how to do an updo. So, yeah. So she taught me that early on. And I love educators like her who embrace, like, you came up with a nice updo. It didn't have to look like mine, but it's an updo that a bride would pay for, at least celebrate the progress of that, So
yeah,
I love that about her. Even though in my head in that moment, I'm like, no, I hate it. But as I grew more, mentally in the industry, I'm like, I understand exactly where she was coming from now.
Yeah. Or I respect educators who will change their approach or change their material over time. Mentioned Cut It Kinky earlier, but Cut It Kinky again, like just updating the information and being transparent about the fact that, hey, like we've learned more. We have experimented with more product, or like we figured out a new thing that works better. And that was true for us 3 years ago, and now it's not true for us anymore. So we're going to update this information.
Yes, absolutely.
That's critical thinking is what that is. And I want people that I learn from to have good critical thinking skills.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like that. You'll see some people, or not some people, but some professionals in the industry, they'll upgrade their online courses like, oh, now it's 2.0 or 3.0 or 4, and that lets you know, like, oh, it's been upgraded, so that specific technique is probably being outdated, or they've learned a new, faster, and more efficient way to arrive at whatever it is that you're trying to learn and accomplish from the online course,
Yeah.
So I agree 1000% for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you're learning from somebody and they've been teaching the same thing for 15 years and that hasn't changed.
What they call it? Cookie cutting, I think.
Yeah. Cookie cutter. Like, you might as well learn from a robot, right? They're not growing. They're not taking in new information and letting it change how they feel about anything. Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true. I agree 1000% for sure. Like, we're not robotic at all. Like, we're meant to change. We're meant to grow.
Yeah.
We're meant to innovate. All of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way sometimes about politicians. I see a politician be honest and say, well, I'm not going to say honest, right? Really, most of them are not honest, but honest for a politician. Say something like, hey, I know that I had this certain stance on this thing, and I've talked to some people, I've gotten some new information, and I think I was wrong on that, and I've got a different stance. I respect that. Like, I want to see human beings use good critical thinking skills and be transparent about the growth that needs to happen to keep us all on our toes.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of becoming off like a know-it-all, Yeah,
doubling down because you're too, like, afraid to let people see you grow.
Right, exactly. And people respect you more when you become more relatable, because I mean, we all learn,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We all learn from our mistakes, and we all learn a different way and a better approach to things. So whenever you are in a position that high, and then you come back and revisit and say, hey, initially I really felt deep down this was what it was, but I went back to a round table. We did some talking and we discussed some different topics, and now I have better information for you. Then you become trusted as well. It builds trust, whenever you're able to be that transparent and that vulnerable, and, with that honesty being presented on such a high platform like that, people trust you. Yeah.
Right. Is your intention to be right, or is your intention to help other people grow from what you have to share, right?
A lot is to be right.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. And that's why it comes from such a terrible space, because you want to be the know-it-all. You want to be the one that's right. And a lot of the times you have different perspectives, which doesn't really create truth. It's your perspective, my perspective. Let's come up with the best, solution based on our perspectives. And then some things are underlying facts.
Yeah.
So absolutely. Yeah. So, and sometimes the two perspectives create the fact. You just, just being open to listening and receiving, that's what it's about at the end of the day, like what you and I are doing right now. We're listening, we're receiving. No one's being combative. You telling me about what you experienced, I'm telling you about what I experienced. And this is to help, people who are going to watch and listen to the podcast, to also help them, progress mentally, emotionally, when it does come to, this topic of discussion of all the topics we discussed today. Just trying to gain an understanding so that we can have healthier relationships.
Right.
So it's
growth, right? Growth is at the core of all of it. Yeah.
Growing pains. It hurts, man. It's the other side of it is more rewarding. You go through a lot to get to the other side, So, yeah.
We all have those people in our lives that don't grow, right? But
oh my gosh,
I don't know, like, the only people I excuse for that is, like, maybe my grandma,
because they're so set in their ways, and they don't have time to keep up with the times.
They've been on this earth long enough, and they have a lot of good wisdom to share, and they're tired, and it's okay for them to not grow for a while. Just leave them alone.
Yeah, you
right?
just leave them alone, let them talk. They are definitely, they want to be heard, but they don't want to receive. No.
No. But
You know what?
anybody else that's like that in your life, like you get rid of them. Those you break up with them. You they are now your ex. Like I
Grandma,
don't need that. I don't need that in my life.
not break up with grandma. It's like whatever. Like,
You can't break up with grandma.
and you love them for who they are. And a lot of the times the stuff becomes theatrical after a few conversations and encounters with them. They become actually theatrical. It's funny. It's not even offensive no more. It's like, it is. Like my grandmother, she has some beautiful white hair. And I talked her into going natural, and I also talked her into not coloring it no more, because she would color it like black or like a red. The red would be great, but like the black is aging you. Like it doesn't look good on you. And so eventually I talked her into like not coloring her hair anymore at all. So now it's white. And I taught her into not getting to relax anymore. So she stopped relaxing it and she went natural, and she slapped that relaxer back. And she's like, I don't care what y'all say. I don't have time to be dealing with that curly hair. I do. Let them live. She was like, you want to deal with that? You deal with that. I'm not dealing with that.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I gotta do my own hair most of the time. So, and I understand that, because she's like 80 something years old. Like, she don't even the mobility,
Yeah.
so the straight for her is more convenient.
Yeah.
But if she had the help, she would have never relaxed it, but she don't have the help. I'm in Texas. She's in Louisiana. For me to drive down there and take care of curly hair that's kind of unheard of. And then I set her up with someone. I was like, look, I'll pay for you to go get your hair done. I was like, I'll pay every 2 weeks. You can go get your hair done. I don't like her. Why you don't like her? I just don't like how she do hair. It has nothing to do with the stylist. They're just set in their ways. And it's more like, I want you to do my hair. I don't want no one else to do my hair.
Mm-hmm.
So just set in their ways. So you just let them live. You'd be like, okay.
My sister used to call me from Colorado and want me to tell her new hairstylist how to do her hair. And my sister is younger than me, so I don't know if age is the excuse for that one.
I don't think.
I was like, no.
I know, because you know how it feels as a stylist, and also it's kind of impossible,
I gave her the words to be able to express what she likes and doesn't like, that the hairstylist can understand. But I said, I will not. You got to understand that we're all artists, and you go to somebody new, like they're going to have their own viewpoint, and you got to be open to receiving some of that, because you're paying them for their art and for their vision and for their opinion.
Absolutely. I'm glad you told her that. And I'm that stylist too. I'm very transparent. I would not even feel comfortable getting on the phone to tell a stylist how to do their job. That's extremely uncomfortable.
No. I mean, she did it out of fear. My sister has she has kinky texture that's frizzy and naturally very coarse, and she finds it difficult to work with, and so she is out of fear of like just feeling like nobody else is going to know what to do. But she worked through it. Now she's got her own hairstylist. She figured out,
And it's usually just that initial appointment. It's like, she don't do my hair, and I don't, you don't really, especially as curly hair girls, it's really hard because you don't see it being promoted a lot either. So it's really hard to, unless you are intentionally trying to find this education on social media, or, if you're, are trying to find the stylists that do, specialize in curly hair. But you're going to see way more color cuts, hair extensions, braids. That is overwhelming on social media. But to find someone who's trying to organically teach, educate, you on how to take care of your curly hair, how to define your natural curly. It's not a lot of it's. You don't see it everywhere. So then the clients, being that they don't see this everywhere, it's like, oh my gosh, I hope she know what she's doing, because you don't see it a lot in order to trust it. The process as much as you would with any other type of hairstyle. So yeah. So I understand where she's coming from. Like even when my girls, when they come in for a consultation, I sit down. I'm like, let's sit down. Let me lower my stool, lower than yours, so you don't feel like I'm trying to be the know-it-all and in charge. And then, just try to relax them, because one girl told me she took anxiety medicine before she came to me. I was like, right? And see, you're saying that like that's normal, and for me, it was not.
I've seen people start to cry before you even do anything. People, I don't know. Sometimes we get people who want to come in and do a consult first because they just want to talk to you and see like if your energy is right, see if the vibe is good. Yeah. But that need and the way that people feel when they go into a salon sometimes like that with curly hair is exactly what set me on that path of like, I need to focus on curly hair, because this is a large group of people who are not being cared for, who don't feel like they're being well taken care of. They're not walking out of the salon. If your client walks out of the salon and they don't feel better than when they walked in, you've not done your job.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't care what kind of hair you're doing, that the whole point is that they feel better when they leave than when they came in. And for a lot of curly people, they were accepting that as something that was part of getting their hair done, was that they were going to walk out feeling bad, and that's not fair. I think that's terrible, and I want it to change that.
Yeah, I've had experiences with both. More, they walked out and they left feeling great, and maybe 2 out of all the ones that I have, service over my, I guess you say like 3 years of doing curly, defining and reshaping curly hair texture.
Yeah.
2 were not happy. And one, she just flat out told me, she was like, no matter what you do today, I'm not going to like it. She just flat out told me. She was like, she was just flat out told me, I'm not going to like it because I'm trying to learn how to accept my curls. She was like, I'm here just trying to step into that, that process. This is going to help me. She was like, but I don't want, she was like, because my energy may say I don't like my hair, but I just want to let you know it has nothing to do with you. So I was like, great. We can work with that, as long as she's tapped into the reality of that. Because then I had a situation where it was more of a shift blame, where it's like, no, you ruined my hair, and my hair, I don't like it. Well, in the chair, she loved the shape, but didn't like she was like, there's a lack of definition, and I'm able to achieve more definition on my own. And so, she was like, but I love the shape. And then later it became, I actually hate the shape. And it was just like, it just became like a long list of things after that.
Oh, girl, I listened to that episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. So that one was a different one. That was hair extension. This one was a curly hair girl, and she was not happy due to like the curly hair. That was hair extensions. Yeah. But no, this one, she didn't go to that extent. Yeah. She said there, it was just like, just a lot of, like I said initially, I love the shape, but I don't like that there's a lack of definition, Yeah. And then it became this thing where it was like, I don't like the shape and I don't like the definition. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't like this. I don't like that. And some things, what some clients don't understand too, some things you can almost guess it's internal. Some things you can't say you like one thing and then take it all back. And now it's like you absolutely hate it all. The crazy thing is she did have some of the same mannerisms as that client, because she did tip me, but I had to reimburse the tip because I'm an hourly based stylist and I don't accept tips. So so it's like, what happened when you went home? I don't know, but from the time you left, you were happy with the shape. You just wish that there was more definition in the front. And she couldn't achieve that definition because the way how she manipulated her hair in the front, it would be gelled down on the sides and then poofed out in the back. And I brought that up earlier, in our conversation. And I'm like, the more you stretch your curls, it's going to lose definition. I can't do anything about that, So the only thing we can do is work on retraining your hair. That's it. In order for it to get the definition back, So some things like I've had to take accountability for some things because I absolutely did mess it up. But some things I'm like, you can leave and still not love your hair, and it has absolutely nothing to do with me.
Yeah, or nothing to do with their hair, right? That's what the stories that I was hearing a lot of.
Nothing to do with their hair, like I believe in taking accountability and responsibility for my slack and my lack, and then also beating myself up, for not consulting enough, because there have been situations where I'm like, you know what, I should have informed her that this was a disclaimer I should have, told her about so that when this happened, it wasn't a surprise for her. That's my fault. I've had situations like that too, where it's like, you as a stylist, you do this stuff so much. So you're not thinking like, I have to go into the gritty details and disclaimers of every single thing in order for the client to, for the expectations to be met based on the information that I provided. And it's just like some things come so natural for you that you just forget, And then when they bring the disclaimer up, it's like, why didn't I tell her that? Why didn't I tell her that? Like, I knew that there was a possibility of that happening, and I didn't inform her. So I am responsible because I didn't communicate enough, So yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I've had, like I said, I've had both. I've had clients to leave not completely 100% happy on both, where it's like it has nothing to do with hair, and then where it had something to do with hair. The more hair you do, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess it up every now and again.
Yeah, no, I mean what I mean is more on the level of like how you treat people,
Absolutely.
I heard all kinds of stories from people leaving unhappy because they were treated a certain way because of their hair,
No,
like,
no.
oh, your hair's so thick, or oh, your hair's so whatever, not detangling properly, hurting, just being rough with people or being rude or making comments that, just that kind of treatment I was hearing stories like that all the time from people. Just,
I heard
I want to get my hair cut, but like it's not fun, and I don't really like going to the hair salon, and I'm nervous because people always make me feel weird or make me feel bad about my hair.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's what I mean. Like if you can't make people feel better on the inside, they might be like, that's the minimum of what we do, right? Like the hair is the technical part of it, but we're all here doing this because we want to make people feel better. And if you're not making people feel better, then you should reassess what you're doing.
Yeah. And see, but I've also had it where I did show up. I even heard clients sit in my chair and say, she was nice. I mean, she had great customer service, but my hair was a hot mess, and I felt I left. So it's like it's still hard, to check that internal instinct for that client. It's like some things I will accept and say that's beyond my profession. I'm only responsible for what I can do here, and then also delivering you great customer service, great communication, being respectful and listening to you. I will definitely show up as a stylist for that. But when it's in here, I don't want to fix it. That's beyond my expertise. I'm like, I cannot take
you can't always succeed. Sometimes people have something going on and they're just looking for a place to put it. And that's not, you can't fix that.
We receive that. Because, we, being that, we offer these environments that allow them to be vulnerable. And in exchange, they will be vulnerable. And so you do end up unintentionally, receiving, because you do want to help. We're in the service industry. We are artists, but we are servicing the client. So if you're in the service industry, you naturally like to help people. you
Yeah.
know? So whenever they are struggling, you want to help. But what I've learned to do also is kind of set a little boundary for
Mm-hmm.
myself so that we can create a healthy relationship behind that chair, because I don't want to take on that responsibility of something being related internal, even though there have been some appointments where some girls like, you've helped me in other ways but beyond hair. Now those were not my intentions. I'm glad I did, but I was just there to do your hair and do my job,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I learned like I'm not doing that no more, because I have given. And then for like those two clients that I was referencing to, for them to just be like, oh, blah 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 blah, I'm like, oh no, I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. I'm gonna do my job and that's it. I'm not gonna,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why those people, right, that we can't help and we can't fix, because it's not about hair. And that's
It,
really what we're here for, is to fix your
yeah.
hair. There's a
Yeah.
reason why those people don't usually go away until we break up with them. Because, right? Because like they just keep coming back, because like they think they found a place where they can drop all their crap.
Yeah.
And they can point everything at this person who's just far enough outside their life that it doesn't feel too personal to them,
Exactly.
And those
Yeah.
are the people, that's when like we are allowed to break up with people when it is toxic and it is
Absolutely.
unhappy. Yeah.
You gotta
No.
go. You gotta
Mm-mm.
go. And I want us
Mm-mm.
as professionals to understand it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
because you feel bad for getting, for removing things that are not servicing you behind that chair. It's
Yeah.
like, it's not healthy for you. They come here and, they dump. It's always negative. And it's even worse if they're the first client for the day. They can set the tone for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, it's very important that you know and be in tune with your intellect emotionally. Like, this is not good for me.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't even refer them out, because I don't want them to become a burden for someone else. I'm like, it's your job to find your fit at this point.
I have an 11-year-old. I get abused enough. I'm
Girl or boy?
yes, you know.
A girl or
I'm
boy?
not a boy.
Oh, yeah. Me too. I have an 11-year-old boy. Yep.
He
He's a
just
sweetie pie though, but he's a sweetie pie. So
yeah.
far.
Yeah. Just jokingly, like that's the only realm of my life that I will allow someone
Absolutely.
to throw
Absolutely.
their crap at me and expect me to fix it all the time.
There you go. Yeah.
If you're not my kid, no. I don't care how much you're paying me. I'm not.
No. And I used to be that that stylist who received it and wanted to fix it. Not even, and that was just that people pleasing toxic trait
Yep.
I
It
had,
is.
and that I developed as
It
a
is.
child, and once I, learned that's what I was doing, I was just like, oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Now I know why I'm operating in this way and it's not successful for me, so yeah.
Those fixer-uppers, right? Man, we can fall into it in our relationships.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Personally and professionally, and it creates a very, you really become that person with that empty glass. Like you just, you become that person with that empty glass and you don't have nothing to give for yourself. You can't even show up for yourself no more, Yeah. Gosh. Okay. So, Melissa, I want to thank you so much for joining the Hear What I'm Saying podcast show and sharing all of your knowledge and information and growth as a curly specialist that you've experienced over the years behind the chair. I would really love for our listeners and followers to stay connected with you. Can you please share your information so that they know how to, follow you or stay connected and all those great things?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Lissa Loves Your Hair, Lissa, like Melissa. And then my salon is Chroma Hair NP. And we're also on TikTok now with the same name.
Okay.
I'm trying.
A lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here to have this conversation. It's such a big, tender conversation to have, and it's something that I have spent a good part of my career trying to have this conversation with a variety of people that I've worked with, worked for, sometimes with good results, sometimes not so good. And,
Right.
I'm just out here, keep trying to talk to people. For me, opening a business had to have a bigger impact than just being a business. So I really, it's important to me that it reflects all of my values, and
Right.
and that it's a place that I can feel proud of, and that everybody feels really welcomed in and taken care of equally. And so, yeah, this whole topic is something I'm so passionate about. I could talk to you for 3 days about this.
I know, right? Like already over time, So.
Yeah.
Before you do go, I do want to know what inspired your salon name.
Chroma is a technical word that essentially means the intensity of the pigment of color.
Okay.
I don't know. I had a silly idea that I wanted like a single word instead of like something salon or something spa, or I wanted a single word. And when I built the salon, I built it with this kind of vision in mind of creating a really diverse, inclusive space that would encompass lots of different kinds of people. And so the word chroma, just to me, it made me think of this kind of like a rainbow. It made me think of like a variety of intensities of color and spice and different kinds of people.
That.
Yeah, and it's just, I'm a word nerd, and I like alliteration, and the word sounds nice to say, it's easy.
Yeah.
And
I love that. It's really well thought out. I really like, and it still ties into what you're trying to still, push out, as far as, the beauty standard in the industry when it comes to curly hair texture. It's like, it still coincides with your mission out here. So it's great. Yeah, I
it's
love
just
it.
a word that means diversity to me. It means a variety of pigments and colors and intensities,
I freaking love that. Like whenever I ask anyone that, just in general conversation, that's like the best answer I've ever received. I love like now when I see your name, I'm going to know exactly what it means now, and it's going to hit different for me now. Whenever I see
thank you, Kinetra.
I love it. And I'm sure our listeners are going to love that too.
Thank you. Yeah. Congratulations on your podcast. I'm so excited to see you doing this.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for listening too. Like, you tuning in every episode, and to take the time out to like listen and engage and learn and just listen to my little raspy, squeaky voice is already enough. I really appreciate it.
I love the conversations on the show. I play it when I'm getting in the shower to get ready for work, and I just laugh. I'm just in there laughing to myself, talking to myself.
I really appreciate that so much. Yeah. All right, girl. Well, I won't hold you up no more. Like I said, thank you again. I appreciate you so much. And I will definitely be following up with you after the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. Have an awesome day.
All right, you too.
Thank you all for joining us in this thought-provoking episode of Hair What I'm Saying, where we've explored the intricate relationship between hair texture and systemic racism. A heartfelt thank you to our guest, Melissa, for sharing her valuable insights and shedding light on this important aspect of the beauty industry. Your expertise has truly enriched our conversation. Listeners, we love to hear your thoughts on today's discussion. Feel free to reach out with your comments, questions, or personal reflections. Your engagement means the world to us. If you found this episode enlightening, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing us on your preferred podcast platform. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at _hairwhatamsaying_. Your support fuels our mission to foster understanding and inclusivity.